buenas tardes a todos y vamos a dar comienzo a esta penúltima sesión del Diplomado en Diseño y Construcción Sostenibles. Y me da muchísimo gusto que esté con nosotros Claude Ouimet y bueno, me voy a permitir dirigirles algunas palabras en inglés para, en honor de que está él aquí. I say I'm very honored to have you again with us. This is the third time that Claude has been participating in the diploma course. And Jose Luis Cortés and myself were guests of Interface this past April. And we were, very much impressed with the spirit of the whole enterprise, not only because it's a company that has sustainability as part of its agenda, but the whole of the people are engaged in this. They're really committed to this new way of thinking, and I think that's one of the things that we're going to learn, or that you're going to learn today. And I'm very proud that Claude has been wanting to come again to our diploma course and be with us and share this with you. I will give the microphone to Raúl so that he can read us the biographical outline of Claude, and then we will begin the presentation. Thank you very much.
Buenas tardes. Claude es vicepresidente ejecutivo y gerente general de Interface Floor, Canadá y Latinoamérica, líder mundial en la manufactura de alfombra modular. El liderazgo de Claude en Canadá y América Latina provee el enfoque estratégico necesario para continuar la maximización de toda oportunidad y ayudar a la empresa a asumir el reto del crecimiento en estos importantes mercados. Los 17 años de carrera en la empresa incluyen puestos en manufactura y ventas. Fue presidente y gerente general de Interface en La Grange, Gran Alberta, donde supervisó la implementación de una nueva tecnología sostenible, procesos y equipamiento para Estados Unidos y Canadá. También fue gerente general en el establecimiento en Belleville, Ontario. Interface está inmersa profundamente en la misión de volverse la corporación sostenible líder mundialmente en el esfuerzo para diseñar procesos de desarrollo y manufactura sostenibles. La mezcla de conocimientos de Claude en manufactura, ventas y mercadotecnia le da una perspectiva única para integrar sostenibilidad a través de la cultura corporativa. Con su pasión por la práctica segura ambientalmente, influye en la tecnología manufacturera, en las estrategias de ventas y en los conceptos de mercadotecnia que reflejan la ecomisión de la empresa. Estas tecnologías y programas dan herramientas a otros, incluyendo clientes, vendedores, proveedores, a través de educación para hacer de la sostenibilidad una idea comprensible y accesible en los puntos de venta. Antes de ingresar a Interface, Claude trabajó para compañías como Peerless Corporation, Domtor Arborite y American Buildrite. Es nativo de Quebec y reside ahora en Gran Alberta con su esposa Anne y sus 2 hijas. Las veces que yo he conocido a Claude, me ha transmitido un valor y un compromiso con el cambio asombroso que le fluye de las venas y de todos lados, que vamos a disfrutar mucho la conferencia que hoy nos va a dar. Muchas gracias, Claude.
Thank you. And we're ready. Okay. It's nice to be back here. It's the third time, and I enjoy it every time I come here. In Mexico, but more specifically here. How many of you are architects or designers in that field of architecture and design? Okay. All right, good. I shouldn't have raised my hand because I'm not part of I'm not an architect or designer. How many of you have seen the movie The Inconvenient Truth? Al Gore. Okay, so we're going to go through this pretty fast. I spent 3 days with Al Gore in Nashville, and I was one of those who have been trained to give the presentation on climate change. As he calls it, it's more like global warming. So we're going to talk about it, but as much as possible I'm going to go fast because you've seen it before. You know what's at stake. You know what it is. You know the problems that we have. By the way, it's not the only problem that we have. Global warming is one thing, but then we have a lot of other issues with surpopulations, losing species, and caused probably by, not probably, but caused by the way that we act, the way that we see the world. So we're going to talk about this. I'm going to drink some water because I'm on the antibiotic and I have a sinus problem, and I took some pills and I have a dry mouth, so I'm going to use a lot of water. I'm glad it's not a... Okay. I'll try to get you to do some exercise to this presentation. I like when there's an interaction. So let's start with the global warming issue. This is a shot of the Earth. It's the only picture that we have of the Earth. When you see the picture of the Earth, it's always the same picture. It's always this one. Mark Twain said this years ago. What gets us in trouble is not what we don't know. It's what we know to be true that is not true. That means that we take a lot of things for, we have assumptions of things. We think they're true, but they're not true. So, and we always think that it's what we don't know that gets us in trouble. But believe me, and I'll try to demonstrate this throughout that presentation. Things that you think that it's really sure, it's this. And you will see, it may not be. This is the Earth right here. And this is our atmosphere. And that's what's causing a lot of problem. Through the way we live, we're creating a lot of CO2s. Individually, all of us, individually, we have a lot of impact on this planet. Footprint, that we call it. And we don't realize how big our footprint is, but then we have a big one. And we don't quite realize how big it is. It is not necessarily by just getting up in the morning and driving our cars. That's definitely one, but it's not the only one. It is the one that we recognize the most, but it's not the only one. So, solar radiation comes from the sun and warms the Earth, and it's a good thing. Most of the radiation is absorbed by the planet, but after a while, it goes back into, past the atmosphere into space. It's important, otherwise our planet would be so hot, so warm, but there wouldn't be any life on this planet. It would be like 250 Celsius, and it'd be awful. It would be awfully hot. So the atmosphere is this system that protects us, keeps certain radiations, but let go a lot of it. Now the problem is we're thickening and we're changing the chemical composition of our atmosphere. And just to tell you how thin that atmosphere is, if you take a soccer ball and you put a coat of varnish around the soccer ball, that coat of varnish, the thickness of it, is the equivalent of the thickness of our atmosphere around our planet. So it's very thick and it's fragile. We're changing the chemical composition of our atmosphere by creating a lot of CO2s and another gas, methane. Methane is another issue. So this is what creates the CO2. This is what we recognize. Burning fossil fuel. That is really what we recognize as being, this is a big problem. Where we don't quite get is, if you drive a car, you think that your impact is when you're driving the car, because you have gas and you say, I have X kilometer per liter of gas, right? Well, I'll tell you something. It takes more energy to build the car than the car will use for the life of the car. So you see that the problem is not just what we see, it's the way we think we see you. We don't have the right information. We think that the only difference is that it hits your pocket more. The price of gas hits your pocket, so you realize it. But we don't realize the energy embodied in a car. The bigger the car, the worse it gets. So when I see General Motors, for instance, publicizing, advertising the fact that they took an SUV, a big SUV, Letao, huge thing, and they converted that into a hybrid. And you have people feeling good about it because I have a hybrid. What they don't realize is that the steel that it took to make that big car, and all the plastic, the polymer, the rubber, everything, if you sum up all the environmental impact of every particle, chemistry, parts, everything that's in that car, you would be blown away. That's how big it is. So, what does that tell you? It tells you that we don't have an understanding of our impact on the things that we buy. The things that we buy, because we don't know how it's made. We don't know the consequences of everything that's in the thing that we made. A ring, a gold ring with a diamond on it. If you were to know the social impact and the environmental impact of a gold ring with a diamond, you probably wouldn't want to wear one or not buy one. You would feel guilty. You would have this contradiction. Oh, I think it's beautiful, but I can't. You know, this is going to be our life for a while. It's not what we do that gets us in trouble. So it's not the fact that we bought the car. It's not the fact that we're buying a ring or a fancy pair of shoes. It's the way we think. The way we think is more of a problem than what we do. Because if we change the way we think, we'll change the way we do things naturally. It's when we try to change what we do without changing how we think. That causes the problem. Okay. So this is the slide of 1970, the Kilimanjaro, and you look at the ice cap here, and you look at it in 2000, and you look at it for the same season in 2005, and there's a major impact. Why is it so important that we're losing the snow on the top of Kilimanjaro? It's because that's the source of water for every species that lives here. So obviously for them, it's extremely important. By the way, there's 3 types of people that comes to these types of events. And I want to congratulate you for being here. Because you are here on your own will. You're taking your time and you're engaged. You're getting here and you want to learn more about it. And I congratulate you for being here and putting that time aside and just do it. This here, I was saying that the 3 type of people that are here. There's one group of people, they're here because they have children, or they have grandchildren, or they want to have children. And they're worried about the children, the future of these children on this beautiful planet. Because we all hear that it's going to get tough before it gets better. There's another group of people that are here because they're worried about the human species. They're not concerned about just my family, friends of family, but they're involved in worrying about all the human species, kids all over the world, whether they're Chinese, Europeans, or Canadians, or whatever. There's a third group. What would that third group think, you think? They're concerned about all species. Not just human species, but all species. Why is it so important? Because they understand, and I'm hoping that I'm going to give you enough information so that you'll seek that information and you'll process that information. the web of life on this planet is interlinked. If we're losing the frogs, there's a direct consequences to us. We don't see it because it's not immediate, but there is a lot of consequences from losing species on this planet. Because all species on this planet have a purpose. And if they're not there to exercise that purpose, then there's a problem. So that's the third group. Argentina in 1928, big glacier here, and look what it is in 2004. Totally disappeared. Consequences. This is a scientific station post, and there's some in the North Pole, there's some in the South Pole. And what they do, you know that the ice thickness on the two poles could be 1.8 or I think 1.9 kilometer thick. So it's pretty thick. Analyzing not the thickness of the ice, but the composition of the ice gives us a good understanding of what went through on this planet since 600,000 years ago. Because that's how old the ice is. Every year, the snow falls, it captures all the particles in the air, falls on the ground, on the ice, and then freezes, becomes ice. So they analyze and they cut. I'll show you. You see this? This is the ice. This is a carrot. And they dig into the ice. And they read through this. They slice it, very thin slice, and they know exactly when that time was. And they analyze how much CO2 was in the atmosphere at that time, was in the air. And they capture all kinds of things in there, not just CO2. All kinds of particles that came from Africa. Well, they were asking themselves, well, how did it get here? And we're going to talk about that. So, and like a tree, you could look at the layers of the trees and you understand, if you cut it, you understand approximately how old the tree is. This is exactly the same thing. It took thousands and thousands of years to accumulate, and every ring like this is a time capsule. All right. Now we're going to take a look at 1,000 years ago, the temperature of the northern hemisphere, 1,000 up to here, 2,000. What we're trying to show you here is there is a correlation between the level of CO2 and the temperature rising. As you see here, the temperature like this and went up, and CO2 concentration went up. So there's correlation. Now, it's not to say that because CO2 levels are up this year that you're going to have an instant reaction that the same year. It's going to take a little while to have an impact. Now we're going 600,000 years. This is CO2 level, and this is temperature. Now, for anybody that would tell us that there is no correlations between those two lines, it'd be a problem. All scientists agree that we're in a problem. When you were watching CNN or Fox, CNN, Glenn Beck's or Fox, anybody at on Fox, that talks about global warming, they think it's a hoax. Because they just don't want to face reality. Glenn Beck said it, I want to drive an SUV. And there's nobody, not Al Gore, not an environmentalist, that's going to convince me not to drive my SUV. Okay. And he invites people that are not scientists. They're people with an opinion, not based on any science. But they come up with a story. Very often, if you trail back the money, who pays these people, you're going to end up with the petroleum company somewhere in Texas. Is it from where George Bush is? I think it is. No correlation. Although, this is where we are at CO2 right now in 2002. This is where we were. This is where we're going to be in 45 years from now. This is CO2. Now watch that line. I don't have the slide to show you that line, where that line is going to go. But this is what worries the scientist. It doesn't have to go that high for us to be in trouble. At all. Okay. Global temperature since 1961, and you see it there, minus 0.4, and all the way down here, look at this here, warming up. Look at the ocean temperature. This is what is predicted, natural variability of the water temperature. Okay. This is the expected variation due to human activity. Okay. And this is real, actual observed water temperature of the ocean. Now we all have to understand that when the sun, the radiant of the sun gets around the earth, what is it? It's energy. If you put more energy, that energy is going to do something. It has to do something. So it's going to brew, it's going to create something. And there's two ways for the earth to balance its temperature. One is the air current, and the other one is the ocean current. That is why around the globe our average temperature is 59 degrees Fahrenheit, which is Celsius would be like 17. Am I right? 16. So that is the average temperature around our planet. All because of our atmosphere. But now because we're inflicting we're getting a lot of energy, heat getting around our planet, it stirs up a lot of things. It's disturbing the equilibrium, the balance that the earth has. Okay. This is Brazil 2004, big hurricane, the first ever in the South Atlantic. And I was there 2 weeks after. I was in Sao Paulo. It didn't hit Sao Paulo directly. But Sao Paulo got the rain of the hurricane, and they're not prepared. They're not equipped for that at all, and it was very dreadful. This is 2004, 1,717 tornadoes. This year in 2008, we had so many tornadoes in the United States. I think there's over 100 people, 200 people died from tornadoes in the States, and I think it's going to be a record here. And just to show you the strength of Mother Nature, the energy that we build, that when it's building up and it creates a hurricane or tornado, it could move heavy things without any problem. These guys are just talking about that with a good beer. They're in Alabama, and they're looking at this and they're saying, hey man, it's going to take one big boat to tow that thing back. But this guy says, I got one. I got my pickup truck. I could help them. Major storms spinning in both the Atlantic and the Pacific since 1970 have increased in duration and intensity by 50%. Big 50%. Okay. Hurricane intensity. Well, you have the water temperature, and right with it you have the wind velocity, and then you have the storm moisture. A little less, but it flows like this together. Storm moisture is the amount of rain that we're going to get. The wind, obviously, is the strength of and the damage that it creates, and the water temperature. This is Katrina. It's right here, and it's going to go across Florida at Category 1 hurricane. It's going to go into the Gulf, and it's going to hit New Orleans right there. Boom. And they have, if you go to New Orleans, the French Quarter is still good. You could go there, have a great party. But if you go 15 miles out, it's devastation still today. What does that tell us? Forget about the wind and everything now. Just what does that tell us? It tells us that the United States of America, who prides themselves of being so well organized in the infrastructure, it has disrupted enormously the supply chain to support a population of hundreds of thousands of people for a long period of time. So they didn't have any clean water. They didn't have any source of energy. no electricity, no nothing. And worst of all, they have no cellular phone, no Blackberries. No, hey, now that's bad. That is really bad. Well, it's bad in a way because nobody could communicate with each other because phones were down and no cellular phone. Family dispersed, and so chaos took place. And now we saw what happens when there's suddenly a change. Behavior, how people behave, and how people reacted towards a threat, a life-threatening situation. So it was not a pretty sight. This is another picture of it. Just look at cost. I was with HSBC this morning, and we're talking about banking, and talking about cost. Well, look, and from an insurance company, look at this here. This is lost in billions of US dollars, total economic loss. Look at it, 1998, 2005. The insurance company are looking at this and they're wondering whether they're going to keep insuring houses and businesses for hurricanes or any catastrophe that we could have. No, thank you. Good idea, though. This is Switzerland. Nobody's yodeling there. This is a very bad picture of August 2005. And look at this. This is not the picture that we have of Switzerland, you know. Mountains, cows with the big bells. And suddenly we have thousands and thousands of people that have to move for a period of time. And for how long, they don't know. This was not permanent, so they all came back, or most of them came back, like same thing in New Orleans. But it disrupted the life of hundreds of thousands of people, and then what are they going to do? They have to go somewhere, and wherever that somewhere is, it disrupts all of the peaceful way of living of these people, because now you've got a mass amount of people coming into that area. This is in China. China, in one province, so much flooding, so much rain that they couldn't plant any seeds. Oh, look, is he cute or what? Doesn't care. He's safe, he's okay. I love kids. You know, they don't panic. It's cool. But look at these. This is so dry over there that they can't plant any seeds either, because they don't have any moisture, they don't have any rain. So creates a problem for feeding themselves. I'm going to go quickly over this because this is just a projection of Lake Chad in 1963. Look what it looks like. 1973, 1987. Today, it's a desert. People used to live around that lake. They used to fish. They used to have communities. But all these communities need to move. They went where? Some of them went to Darfur. I'm not suggesting here that global warming is responsible for the problem they have in Darfur. But I'm saying it's a contributor. That when you have a movement of population, you see politically, social politics come into play. This poor man is trying to plant seeds. It will never grow in an area that's dry. Look how it works. Ocean, it will evaporate the water, it'll get into the atmosphere, and then, you know, storms and all. This land gets so dry, and then the wind picks up, and it moves all the topsoil. So afterwards, what's left is not good enough for agriculture. So we're losing agriculture land. This is the sea ice. Not important, but this is the ice that's melting. I want to show you this one here. You see, ice cap helps reflect the sun radiation back into space. As the atmosphere is thinning or thickening, this has more impact on the ice cap. It's melting, and you have less radiation. So now the problem is exponential. The more we lose the ice, the warmer it gets. The warmer it gets, the more ice that goes in, etc., etc. So, very interesting point. Our planet is all the systems are not linear. We think linear, but everything is not linear. So we're constantly in contradiction with thinking linear and operating, living in a system that is not linear, but we think it is. We've been trained since we're kids to dissect things and analyze all the parts of just about anything, but we don't quite understand how it all works together. If we were to spend more time analyzing how it all works together, as opposed to separate everything and try to analyze all these things differently, we would be probably at a different place. We would have a more holistic view of our planet, of life on Earth, that we don't quite get. So instead of separating things, let's look at analyzing how is everything is interlinked. And we'll talk about this later. But to show you how the Earth works, this is what I was telling you about. This is the current. 1 degree at the equator represents 12 degrees Fahrenheit at the pole. So for anybody that lives around here, doesn't feel that the temperature is warm, that the globe is warming up. But 1 degree represents 12 degrees at the cap. Why? Because, as I told you, the way that the Earth balances temperature is through the ocean current and the wind current. Well, there are systems, and I'll show you those systems. It brings it all to the North Pole and the South Pole, and it's warm. And it builds up to be more than what it is at the equator. That's why in Canada, we have a far better understanding over here of that difference, because in Montreal, that's right here, in the wintertime, it's minus 30, 35 Celsius. Very cold. And in Paris, which is north of Montreal, it's probably 0. The coldest -2. And Montreal is northern. I mean, it's south of Paris. So Paris is here, Montreal is here. It's colder here than here. Why? Because of the Gulf Stream. Warm water is coming up and it swings over here, and then it gets into cold water. It picks up the water around the ice over here and brings it back. Very important. A lot of species are relying on that system, a conveyor. It works exactly like the blood that you have in your body and goes into oxygen. It's the same thing. It's all the same thing. Here's another threat to us. Infectious disease caused by mosquitoes and all kinds of little creature like this that could really damage our quality of life quite fast too. Here's another one. Ebola could kill a human being in less than 48 hours. High fevers. You saw this in Africa a couple of years ago. But now malaria is seen in the United States and nearly in the north state of the United States. Never seen that before. So you see, things are happening. And it's not those big things that are going to hit us. Maybe it's those little things that we don't see. Bacteria, viruses, that could inflict enormous damage to a population. Am I encouraging or optimistic or really? It's a great presentation. You'll feel a lot better. So this is the South Pole over here, and this is the penguin, and they're losing their habitat because the ice is melting so fast. I'm going to take you over here in that area here. Okay? Now, we're going to take a helicopter tour just to show you how thick the ice cap is and how it is absolutely beautiful. It took thousands of years to build up those ice caps. See how thick it is? Okay, we're going to take a look at this area here. which is just a little north of where the helicopter was. This is January 31st, 2002. Scientists thought that it would take 45 years to lose the ice cap in that area. January 31st, February 17, 2002, same year. February 23rd, March 5th, pretty much everything's gone. That's how fast it's happening. Every day, ice is collapsing in the ocean. And here's the trick. If you put a glass of water and you put a ice cube, and the ice cube melts, the water level will be the same. But if you put ice cube all the way down to the bottom of the glass, it melts, it will overflow. Okay. All of the ice that we have over the ocean has already reacted to it. So the level of the oceans are taking into account the ice that's in the ocean. Okay. If we lose the ice that's on land, it will overflow because that has not been calculated or taken into account by the oceans. Greenland over here, which is in real fact is not next to this because this is in the north, this is the south, but Al Gore was so proud to bring Greenland right next to the... So this here, if we were to lose the ice on Greenland, it would raise the ocean water level 6 meters. If we lose this part here, it's another 6 meters. So let's look at the consequences of just 6 meters. How it happens is this. You have water pool that looks like a lake that forms on the top of the ice. Right here, there's the lake. At the bottom of the lake, there's cracks. The water infiltrates the ice, gets to the bottom, and in the bottom gets the bedrock, and then the water actually acts like a lubricant. And it brings massive amount of ice from the land into the ocean. That's the problem. That's what they didn't figure out at first. That's why they thought that it would take a long time for the ice cap to melt, and now they're realizing that it's melting much faster. And look at this, this is a river. This is not just a little, it's melting, but that's melting a lot. So here's Florida with 6 meters of ocean rise. South Beach, no more. This is San Francisco Bay. You're talking a lot of people would have to be permanently displaced. This is not just for it's happened and it's going to come back. It'll never come back. This is the Netherlands. Now you're talking millions of people here. Now you're talking Beijing. Now you're talking in the hundreds of millions of people. Where are they going to go? Refugee of climate change. Shanghai. Hundreds of millions of people. India, Calcutta. Actually, we would have to reproduce the map of the earth and change all the coastline. Because I'm just showing that, but it'd be the same thing in Mexico, it'd be the same thing all around New York States, and the New York, would be, Manhattan would be totally flooded. So, 3 factors that creates the problem that we're in. Population explosion. 6 billion people on one planet, and that planet has resources, great resources, but there's a limit to the resource of that planet. From water perspective, from food perspective, from all aspects, it has finite limits. And 6 billion people is heavy. We're feeding 6 billion people because we're cheating. We're cheating on the earth. We're taking things, if you're a bank, if you're no money, we're operating on the cash flow. Not on the cash flow, we're operating on the savings. Petrol, We're operating on the saving as opposed to operating on cash flow. That's our issue. Technology revolution, we've used it only to produce more things, faster things, consume more, but not necessarily to solve our issues. And the other one, our way of thinking, which is really, this is our galaxy. Isn't that beautiful? All these planets. And in there, millions and millions and millions of planets. This is the one, they're the only one that we could live on. Only one out of all these planets. And we don't seem to be able to manage it so that we could assure our own existence in the future. All of these little dots that you see are planets. This is Earth right here. That is just to show you how insignificant we are in the universe. And it's the only place that we have. So, don't you feel better? So this is the Earth. All right. I want to show. Okay. I want to show you a video clip. That video clip, somebody has asked me, said, when did you get it? I'll tell you when. It was in 1995 when I saw this video clip. I was somewhat aware, you know, like, but it's the first time that something got me, really. And there's a word, there's a phrase in there. It's when that the person that talks, it says, it's not a thing, it's alive. For me, I saw bulldozers all my life, you know, bulldozing, plying the earth. And I thought it was a thing. Didn't realize that it was all so much alive. Especially topsoil. So, let's watch this video clip.
Long ago, before the first human was born, before the first tree began reaching for the sun, her life began. She breathes and grows. Her blood rushes through her veins. She can speak her mind. And she can feel pain. She can feed us when we're hungry. She can heal us when we're sick. She has the power to give us energy and the power to make us smile. She's not a thing. She's the earth. And there's a reason we call her mother. Every day, 19 more of the earth species disappear. Forever. But there is hope. With your help, whales have begun to return. The bald eagle is off the endangered list. And 1 million acres of rainforest were protected forever. We only have one planet. We only get one chance. Our mother needs our help. Do something. Anything.
Interesting when it says we don't call it Mother Earth for nothing. What does that tell you? Why are we in the situations that we're in? All the guys, if you want to block your ears and just go la la la, it's because of the guys. The macho attitude that we have towards running things. And I think that it's time for us to bring the women into this decision process so that we could have a better judgment on, because women are more linked than men are to earth, to nature. And it's about time for us to invite women in participating equally and being part of the decision process of finding solutions and finding new ways of thinking and new ways of applying. Of course, when we're talking about women, in place in decisions. I'm not talking about Margaret Thatcher, who always wanted to be a man. You know, when you have a policy of whoop-ass, as they say in Alabama, a can of whoop-ass, well, that's the way that she was operating. And that's not the kind of woman that we need. We need women who are women. And we need them to help us understand, to look at the world somewhat differently than what we've done in the past. We've kept women throughout history. And I'm not going to please a few people maybe, but religion kept women here. All of it. If you read books that are very interesting that tells you the story of how we got to where we are, they mention that factor. Because we were told that we were a superior species. And we linked the woman like nature. Somewhere there. That has to change. As we have to change to see how nature operates, we're part of nature. So I'm going to ask you to think about nature for a second. 5 seconds, close your eyes and think of nature. One of the beauty of nature. Just close your eyes and think about nature for 5 seconds. Okay. Now, how many of you have took a picture of themselves? See, we think of nature as something we're going to see next weekend or something. It's a side of us. It's never us. It feels like we're not nature, but we are. Show me one part of your body that is not part of nature. There may be some exception, but we're not going to go there. Okay, so what I'm saying is we're all part of nature, and we don't see ourselves. When we talk about nature, we always talk about something external, but never us. And yet, that's the way that we need to change. The way that we think of us, the way that we think of the web of life, and how we fit in this. Winston Churchill, and I say this every time, I quote him all the time because I really like Churchill. I like the way that he was thinking. Visionary guy. But he said before World War II, on November 12, 1936, he said, the era of procrastination. He could say this right now to George Bush. Read it like this. He's talking to George Bush. The era of procrastination and half measure, of suiting and baffling expedience, of delays is coming to its close, and it's its place. We are entering a period of consequences. It could be applied today. We only have a few months, a couple of hours, and it'll be over at the White House. Winston Churchill said of the Americans, you could always count on the Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything else. Procrastination is when you are taking so much time to come to a decision. You're analyzing. Every time you ask to do action, you say, let's study this deeper. Let's call a committee. You know, and then we'll create this committee, and then when that committee is over, we'll take a report and we'll create another committee to look at the report. And it's forever. It's the things that stops you from acting. That's procrastination. I have a daughter that has a tendency when it talks about cleaning a room. The beginning of wisdom is the recognition, the acceptance of reality. That's Mao Zedong. I don't quote Mao Zedong very often, but the beginning of wisdom is the recognition and the acceptance of reality. So the beginning of wisdom for us is to accept the fact that global warming, climate change is a reality and coming more and more at a theater near us soon. So, do we have to choose between economy and the environment? The answer to that is no. A lot of people, I was in a university like this one, and I was talking to engineers and architects and designers and industrial designers, and they're asking, what's my future? I'm 20 years old, what's my future? It seems like from what you're telling me, it's grim. And I'm saying, it's a world of opportunity. Why? because we have to reinvent most of the things we use, rethink them, reinvent them, redesign them. But keeping in mind that this time we're going to do it with some consciousness of the effect that those things have on us, future generation. There's a company in Vermont, Burlington, Vermont. The company is called 7th Generation. And they produce household cleaners. Okay? Household cleaners. Green household cleaners. Why did they call themselves 7th Generation? It's because the decisions that are taken in that company takes into account the 7th generation in front of them. So every time they do something, they're thinking, what is the consequences of us doing this for the 7th generation in front of us? Yee. But that's a great spirit. It brings you, it grounds you to think differently. Doing well by doing good is something that's feasible, it's possible. We, Interface Floor, are proving it. That's what Ray Anderson wanted to prove, that you could be a big company. We're on NASDAQ, on Wall Street, we're a publicly traded company, and yet we are green. We're not yet totally sustainable, but we're well on our way. We're about 23% done. So 47% left. And we set ourselves a goal by 2020, we got to be there. Meaning, we don't have any impact on Earth. In fact, we are restorative, socially and environmentally. That's what we want. That's what we're aiming at. And it's profitable through this process of the last 14 years. But I'll say 12 because the slide that I'm going to show you stops in 2006. We have saved cumulatively $336 million. For anybody in business, $336 million, you have to work hard to bring a profit of $336 million. And we have been able to say it. And we're saying to those industrialists who says that it costs too much money to turn green, we're saying you have to think differently. You have to look at it from a different perspective. Don't look at the cost of doing it. Look at the cost of not doing it. And you'll see that the cost of not doing it is far greater than the cost of doing it. In fact, you'll save money if you do it. Okay. This is my part. Really. That's what I like. The power of one is the power of inspiration. You have the power to allow yourself to be inspired. You could take all your ego, you could take all of your status and decide not wanting to be inspired. Or you could just check your ego, check your status, and just look at yourself as being a human being that's part of nature, that is nature, and you are going to allow yourself to be inspired. What does it mean to be inspired? Is to challenge your belief and to be emotionally touched. That's what it means. And one of the things that I do during these presentations, I've always had in the back of my mind that maybe I'm planting a seed, a little itty-bitty seeds in one's heart and saying, she'll get it or he'll get it. By the way, a seed. Look at the tallest tree on earth. 300-foot big tree. Size. It all starts with a seed that big. Just a little bit of seed that big creates a tree that immense. It shows you something about nature. It shows you something about systems. That everything is in everything. The power of the collective. We're a collective people here. The power that we have is the power to think. We have the power to be inspired. We have the power to think. And the power to act with purpose. What is purpose? Purpose is what lives here. A profound, viable purpose lives here. We have all types of purpose. But the purpose makes you See the things you need to see. So it is the power to act with purpose for the collectiveness as opposed to the selfishness. I could apply all the science that I have, the trick, everything that I own to make more money, to be perceived to be successful. It'd be a choice. But we're going to talk about it. Well, it's to say you have a choice of being seen as being powerful and very successful, and yet you could have also being seen in view as a person of value. And when you weigh those two things, you'll see. So I said purpose. I want to show you just this video clip, and I'll come back to the purpose. But look at this, the power of one. A minute. I'm not the one who's singing. What's the difference between these people that you've seen in there and you? None. None. There's no difference between Gandhi and anyone here. The difference is Gandhi had conviction of something, of fairness, of respect and dignity to a nation. And he wanted to not go to war against England, just wanted to make a point and wanted India for Indians. He was so convinced, so powerful in his conviction through his purpose that he won. He beat the empire of, the British. All the people that you saw there have all one thing in common: conviction of purpose. And that's the difference. And if we were to apply the strengths and talents that we all have, and I say this to companies, we all want to work for a company that treats people with respect, and we all want to work for a company that treats people with dignity. This company cannot exist if you're not yourself, because a company cannot be what you're not. A city like Mexico cannot be what you're not, but it could be all of what you are and some. Why? The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So, if let's say that we have, 60 people here. One by one, 60. But together, we're greater than 60. It's the power of one, the power of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. When you apply this to a company, in the DNA of that company, and allowing people to have a higher purpose to come to work in the morning, then you have a totally different company, because it creates engagement from the employees. Because they don't come in just to get a paycheck or just to make carpet. They're trying to make a difference. For them, if you come to Belleville, if you go to LaGrange, and you talk to the people that works there, somebody that works on a tufter, she or he understand that they're not a PhD, they're not going to transform the world, and yet, through the strength, the talent that they have, what they do, they apply it to one thing. They work for what they believe to be the right purpose, the right company, that allows them to be all of what they could be. And that creates engagement. And that's what makes the difference between a company that gets it collectively and a company that doesn't. And the management team, a collective of people that has a purpose for the collectiveness, and not just because when we think about ourselves as a company, management team, we have to think of everybody that works, but all their families and all their kids the same, because they are responsible. You see what I mean? You see the difference? There's some people, we are looking at people and saying to them, you're different than I am, and you're different than she is, and you're different than I am. The difference that you have is your gift to this company. It needs to be seen that way. Well, there's a lot of people that go back to work, they go back home at night, and they don't get that feeling from their family. They may not be valued. They may not have all the respect or recognition. But when they go to work, they know they'll be safe. Safe in who they are. Not safe necessarily physically, but safe in who they are. That is social sustainability. Makes a huge difference. And how did you get that? You get that by allowing people to be inspired, to give them a higher purpose to come to work, and have a profound respect for who they are. It takes courage to change before the need to change. We all know at one point we're going to have to change. You have an opportunity. Either you're starting to change now when it's not too pressuring you, or you wait and then there'll be a lot of pressure for you to change. And since you have not changed before, you have not changed your way of thinking, so it's going to be painful to change at that time instead of changing at your pace. The emotional engagement for sustainability is the power of one. It's the emotion. So you got two things going. You have the emotion, and then you have the knowledge. So you train people on global warming. You let them know of the challenge that we have collectively. And then you get them to be emotional about it. And then you bring those two things together, and you have a very passionate individual that wants to do something. You could look at sustainability from a mechanical point of view. And I know that some of you might have been here today and thinking that they're going to learn something about Green Building Council or how to put a mechanical way of reducing the impact. You'll see it. But we'll never get there. We will never get to where we need to be if we just think about reducing our impact. It needs to be much deeper than this. So technology is going to help us, but technology will only be at the service of the way we think and not the other way around. So the mechanic of sustainability is LCAs and all these beautiful things, and I'll tell you about it. Great stuff. But don't rely on them only. Look at individual, because it's in the individuals that we're going to change. Sustainability and innovation. I said it earlier. If no innovation, we can't get to sustainability. So we have to have the innovation to change the way we do things. A new way of thinking, connectiveness and interdependence of system and context, a network of relationship. Okay, to illustrate this, okay, right now, on this beautiful planet, it's the first time in history of humankind that we have hundreds of millions of people acting up around the globe on the issue of sustainability because they're sensing a new reality that's coming. Hundreds of millions of people acting up What is so original? The originality is that there is no leader. Nobody is standing in front of those millions of people and say, I'm the leader, stay behind, come on, we're moving in that direction. All of this is growing organically. Why do you think? It's never been done before. Because these people are sensing a new reality, an emerging reality, and they want to act on it. And nothing to stop it. Nothing will stop that movement of people, of emotion and knowledge. And we're acting, you see when I said, this is going to be a stretch here. Paul Hawken, in the latest book, illustrates this. And he's comparing this movement. And he says, on Earth, on this planet, it's one. And everything is the same. What you see of mankind going and acting up as a network, systems, connectiveness, and interdependence is acting exactly like your immune system. There is no difference between your immune system and what I've just explained. Why? You've been told that your immune system is an army of white global cells that are going to, it's an army, they're going to kill the bacteria or the virus. And that's the mental picture that they told us. This is really how, in fact, it's not that at all. What it is, it's a network. Your immune system is as good as your network. And every part of the network has a role to play. And it's acting up. And it's not killing, it's analyzing. It's studying the virus. And it keeps it. Because they constantly want to learn from it. It's cybernetic, feedback loop constantly. And that's how you beat the virus. And that's why we have vaccine. Vaccine is just what it is. It's you inflict the disease and then your body acts up on it, keeps it, and then when the disease really actually hits you, you're prepared. You see the whole? Okay. What have I done with my... There, right here. Okay. So if you take a look at it from a company perspective, how does a company work now? It's the same thing. It's a network of people working within. What are you looking for? Cooperation. What are you getting? Not always cooperation. You get a lot of competitions within the company, between that department and another department, etc., etc. You see competition in industry. You see competition in even the green movement, where we need more cooperation than competition. Paradigm shift for inclusion of all human and all species for all generation. Okay? So I have a mentor, a person that I go to, and I asked him, I said, all right, help me change the way I think. Help me better understand. Challenge me. He got it. He said, okay, here's what you do. You go to an airport, you go to a train station, anywhere where there's a lot of people, a bus stop, whatever. He knows I travel a lot, so he says airport. And he says, I want you to zoom into a person that just doesn't look anything like you. Okay? And then you're going to look at that individual and you're going to ask yourself that question, what's in me that's in him? And what's in him that's in me? That's my friend. I don't know that individual. But it's just a picture to illustrate. And it's just a challenge for you to look at it and say, what's in him that's in me? What's in me that's in him? It changes your perspective. And you quickly realize that the needs that he has is exactly the same needs that you have. And the pain that he has for a loss of child or whatever the case is the same as what you would go through. The fundamental, the basic things of life he has, you have. This woman I find so beautiful. Why? Because I look at her and I'm saying, she's been through the pain, the joy, everything. What's in me that's in her? What's in her that's in all of us? Same with her. By exercising myself and zooming in people and just looking at it from that perspective, it changed my perspective of people. I act differently because of it. And I want to forget the cultural aspect of people, whether they're Muslim or this or that or whatever. Today now it's just not important. It's just that feedback loop that I'm trying to get with an individual. If you are a business person, the entrepreneurial ability is the expression of the capacity to sense an emerging reality and act in harmony with it. What's an emerging reality? Global warming, climate change. What do we need to do? Act. What do we need to do? Act in harmony with it. Change. Look. Okay. How will you see what needs to be seen in order to find solutions? For that example, I use the car. I ask people normally, what kind of car do you drive? So how many of you drive a car? All right. Pretty much everybody. Okay. What kind of car do you drive? What year? 207. Avalon, Camry, or?
No, it's a pickup.
A pickup. Okay. All right. Now, picture yourself in your car. All right? Picture yourself in a car, and you're driving, and suddenly a similar car, the same car as you drive, is passing you. All right? Passing you. Instantly, without you even asking your brain to do so, you're going to go through this analysis process. Oh, this is the same car as I have. Oh, it's an older car than I have. My car is newer than that car. Yeah. And how do you see that? It's because the fender is a little different and the lights are shaped differently. You know. And there's letters at the back. It says X, L, I, whatever. And that car has got more attributes than your car. Or should you be so lucky, your car has more attributes than the car that just passes by. Did you ask yourself to make this analysis? No. I could be sitting right next to you, 6 inches from you, and I'm not going to see what you see. I'm not going to get to that process of analyzing the car that just passed by and yada, 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 comparing it with your car. Why? Because I don't own your car. I'm not making payments on your car. You are. So you have a purpose. And maybe that the car reflects a bit of who you are. So, you know, I got a Ferrari. Or I have a Porsche. So, you see, what you see is 400 million bits of information per second. But what your brain could process is 100 million bits. So it's very selective to what it's going to analyze. You, because you have the purpose of the car, etc., you saw this. I don't have that because I'm a passenger in your car. I didn't see it. I saw the car, but I didn't go to that analysis. If you choose to be inspired, if you choose to get yourself engaged, you'll start seeing things that have always been in front of you, but you've never seen. And somehow it's going to pop right in front of you. And it says, that's always been there. How come I've never seen it? It's because you've changed your purpose. You've allowed yourself to be inspired to see it. Okay. This is Ray Anderson. He's the founder of Interface. And in 1994, the company was founded in 1972. In 1994, he had an epiphany. One customer, power of one customer, John Picard, asked one question to Ray Anderson. What is interface and sustainability? And he asked, interface I got, what? Environmental stuff? How do you link environmental stuff with business? That's how ignorant the guy was. So, but he knew, he had a sense that these questions were coming up to us. And he read a book called The Ecology of Commerce by Paul Hawken, page 19. The title of the chapter, it says, The Death of Birth. Ray at the time is 60 years old. He has grandchildren, and he's asking himself, who could possibly write the death of birth in a book? And he read the chapter, he read the book. At the end, he called Paul Hawken. And he says, I'm Ray Anderson. I'm the CEO, founder of a company called Interface. And I read your book, and I want to learn more about it because now I'm getting it. I get it. There is a link between the ecology and business. I never seen it. And I'm afraid that people like me in the future will go to prison for what I've done and what I'm still doing today. I want to change. And I want this company, Interface, to become the first sustainable corporation in the world, and following that, the first restorative company. It means creating the technology of the future, kinder, gentler technology that emulates nature's system. And he says, I believe that that's where we will find the right model. Wow. Okay. So he gave us 7 fronts like this. We looked at it from that perspective, 7 fronts. And the first one is zero waste, benign emission, renewable energy, closing the loop, which is recycling. By the way, in 2009 in Mexico, we will recycle all carpet, not just ours, any carpet. We will have a company here with our technology, and we're doing it right now in the United States. We will do it in Mexico second, we'll do it in Canada third, and we'll do it in Brazil fourth. We have the technology, we do it, and we will avoid all the carpet to go in landfill. And we recycle, reuse the raw material that's in the carpet. Resource efficiency, transportation, it's all about the transports of our products and ourselves when we fly. We offset this. Social sustainability. We have all kinds of different programs. We have programs in Brazil that are different than the ones we have in Canada, and the United States different than one we have in India, and Thailand is different than Australia, and Australia is different than England. Because it has to fit the culture, it has to fit where we are, and we're all in these countries. Redesigning commerce is the way that we address commerce. The relationship that we have with our supplier, our customers, our employees, everything. I could stay here for another and give you all the things that we've done. I'll just show you a couple of slides, but it's enormous. Greenhouse gas emission, we have reduced in Canada, 72% of our greenhouse gas emission has been eliminated. So we're left with 28%. All the product that we produce are climate neutral. What does that mean? It means that we have reduced our emissions 72%, the remaining 28%, we offset it. But not just the 28%. Also, all of the impact, the chemicals, the raw material, the processes that it took to make the product outside of our process, we take account for it. Shipping the product to Mexico, and at the end life of the product, bringing back the product. All of this has been evaluated, calculated, and we have a value, and we offset, and we buy the offset, and buy a third party, so we have a certifications that all our products are climate neutral. So, when I hear people, thinking about Kyoto, talking about Kyoto, that's such a bad thing, we'll never get there. Hey, it's just a company. We're negotiating on NASDAQ, as I said, and we've reduced our emissions 72%. The principle is this: if it exists, it is then possible. If it exists, it is possible. And not just for Interface, but just about anybody. We've reduced our water consumption by 90-something%. Why? Because we used to print carpet. Who in his right mind would use 55 gallons of water to print 1 square yard of carpet? We produce 23 million yards a year at 55 gallons for every square yard just to put a pattern on a carpet that doesn't give you anything else but an aesthetics that could be done differently through needles. So we scrapped all the printing and we went to needle to produce the pattern on our carpet. Savings at the end of 2006, $336 million. Now I could be here for at least, like I tell you, an hour and tell you all of the things that we did everywhere. But it's not about this. This presentation is not about to tell you how great we are. It's just to tell you that it's possible. Why is sustainability important for a business? Why? poor reputation for one thing. You know what? You yourself, all of you, personally, you have a brand. Walmart has a brand, UPS has a brand, FedEx has a brand, you have a brand too. You are who you are, and you're unique, and you have that brand. You don't want that brand to be associated with the problem. You want to be associated with the solution. Well, a brand of a company is the same thing. Walmart does not want to be associated with the problem, being part of the problem. They would like the public to see them as being part of the solution. Whether you're called HSBC, Santander, GE, all these huge companies are now shifting and wanting their brand to be associated with the right thing, not the being part of the problem. There's some that are late coming in. They're going to pay a price. Cost of reductions. For us, it saves money to do the right thing. Access to talent. Talented people want to work for our company because it aligns values with their own values. It's aligned their values with our values. So there's talents line up and says, can I work for Interface? Associate engagement. We have people that are extremely engaged in what they do. And they're engaging our customer. And our customers are engaging us and engaging others by talking about this company. Innovation. It creates innovation because you're tapping on the talent, strength of each individual. Tapping the organizational intellectual capital. Well, if you allow yourself to do this, you will. You'll look at people that have knowledge, their emotion, their creativity, and their experience will bring your company at a different level. The earth is not dying, it's being killed. And the people who are killing it have names and addresses. I showed this to a couple of CEOs, and one of them said, do they have my name? I said, you bet they have. It's on the internet. You know? So now people are saying, whoa, I'm not just also a CEO. I'm a human being. Do you remember that song from Sting? The Russian love their children too. You remember that song? Well, change the word Russian and put CEO. The CEO loved their children too. So when you talk to them, you just have to remind them. All these executive people, just have to remind them. Do you have kids? How could you behave the way you behave if you have kids? Don't you? Do you think that you're going to earn so much money that your kids are going to be safe in the future because you have that much money? It won't worth anything. It won't worth anything. So, this is some companies that have been hit hard. Their brand name has been hit hard and still suffering from it. They waited and waited. They got hit. They spent a lot of money to correct their image in the public eyes. Who wants to go there? But McDonald's doing much better. I don't know about Benetton. You know what it is? Is they were contracting slave kids to make their clothes, which they were selling at a high price, but they were slave kids making them. Like Gap just got caught in November of 2007. Unacceptable to have a company like Gap in 2007 don't have the measures in place to audit their subcontractors. Unacceptable. We should never buy from that company because they don't have any excuse. All they said is just an excuse, but never a good reason. You know, good. Gap, sure. Intellectual and emotional understanding will have the will to act. Intellectual and emotional understanding to have the will to act. It is not what you do, it's what inspires you to act that makes the difference. That's what's going to make us a difference. So if you are architect, that's what's going to make you different. And that's what's going to help us find solutions to what we're going. We don't need to be lead. We don't need to be managed. We need to be inspired. Nobody wants to be managed. But people want to be inspired to do the right thing. For a company, not just for the environment, for the company. You want to inspire the people to be responsible, to be accountable, to be morally and ethically sound. Minimize lifetime regrets is like you don't want to be caught at one time on your deathbed and saying, gosh, I wish I could do it differently. The story, I have a good friend, Monique Ferlot, lives in Montreal. She was in her 60s and she worked 25 years for the Montreal Jewish Hospital, accompanying people dying at the palliative care unit. Okay? 25 years, 3 times a week religiously. Enormous respect for her. And accompanying people who are dying. I had a dear friend who was dying. He had only about 48 hours to live. And he was at home, and I had to go see him, and I didn't know what to tell him. What do you talk about when you're facing a person who's got 48 hours to live, and he knows it? What do you talk about? So I went to Monique and I said, Monique, what is the conversation really when people just have a week to go? And they said, you know what, Claude, whether they're 30, 50, 60, 80, whatever, here's what people talk about. They talk about the relationship they had or they didn't have with a father, a mother, a daughter, a son, a friend, a lover. That's what they talk about. And they always come to that place where they said, I just wish I would have been able to mend my relationship, better my relationship with my daughter or my son, or if I could only go back in time, I would do that. Because how I feel today of missing that opportunity, I feel extremely bad. Nobody talks about the size of their house, the title that they had, the influence, the politics, and everything else. Nobody talks about that at that point. They talk about relationship. They talk about links and connectiveness. So when we say that it's very important for us, we have to remind ourselves that it is, and not wait till we're at that place. Okay. Try not to become a man of success, but rather become a man of value, Albert Einstein. True. We have to redefine the word success. Would you rather be a man that drives a Bentley in the cities of Mexico, driving a Bentley and showing off how powerful and money that you have? Or would you rather be a man that is being seen as a man of value or a woman of value, a person of value? Ask yourself that question. Because very soon, do you remember a few years ago, at least in Canada, a few years ago, 20 years ago, you could walk into an hospital, smoke a cigarette, walk into a room where there's somebody dying from a cancer, lung cancer, people were smoking. So how are you doing? Today, nobody would even think about going into a hospital with a cigarette, right? Change the culture. Well, very soon, the culture of this opulence, we'll look at it as not being something we want to copy, not something we want to get to, but rather be somebody of value. Okay. So, let's go into nature. Okay. Think about it. Where would you rather be right now than being here listening to me? That could be easy. All right. So, think about it. Close your eyes. Think about a place where you'd rather be right now. Very often, 99.9% of the time, people think of a place in nature like this. Why? Because this is where we belong. We feel good there. We belong. We feel more creative. We feel being part of. Or maybe it's a lake and a mountain. Or maybe it's the beach. Palm trees. Beach. Sceneries. Now, who picked this? Good question. You see what I'm saying? Why on earth would we design things like this for human beings? That we expect these people to be productive, creative, intelligent, active, engaged. That's a challenge. I don't understand. My people are not really engaged. Yeah. Who would? Show me your office. All right. So what about the buildings that we built? 65.2% of electricity consumed in the United States is through the buildings. 36% primary energy use is in buildings. 30% greenhouse gas emission is from building. 136 million tons of construction and demolition waste in the United States. 12% of potable water in the United States is in building. 40% of raw material used globally is in buildings. So, change the way you think. When you think of something, a design, think of it this way. Everything that you create, everything that you use is going to be waste at one point or another. You may not be around. All this is going to be waste. It's going to become waste. It's inevitable. Have we thought about it when we've designed this? Have we thought of the material that we're using so that we could reuse it or recycle it more efficiently? Right now, we don't even, it never crossed our mind. It seems like it's not our problem. It needs to be nice, looking good, aesthetically, functional, and that's it. Thinking differently is to get there. How do you think differently now?